Everybody has heard the hype. AI is coming to HR, robots are replacing recruiters, algorithms are the new managers, the future is here and it's automated. Well, is it? That's the question. Among all these breathless predictions and vendor promises, it is tough for HR leaders to separate science fiction from practical reality. What can AI actually do for HR today? What skills and mindsets are needed to harness AI effectively? And what separates the organizations that are leveraging AI to transform human resources from those that are just scratching the surface? My guest today has a provocative take. AI isn't just a tool for HR to adopt, it is a fundamental shift that will redefine the function and leave behind those who fail to adapt. John Sansoucie is the CEO of Cognet and a leading voice on AI's impact on human resources. He's been at the forefront of this revolution, working with organizations across industries to turn the promise of AI into tangible results. And he has a bold perspective on what it will take for HR not just to keep it up, but to lead in an AI-driven world. In this conversation, we are going to cut through the chase and get real about HR's AI challenge. We talk about the mindset shift required to go from passive consumer to active designer of AI solutions. We explore the skills human resources professionals need and don't need to thrive in this new era. And we paint a vivid pictures of what a truly AI powered HR function looks like in action. If you are an HR leader grappling with AI or wondering if you should be, this episode is for you. John, welcome to the Growth Hacking Culture podcast. A real pleasure.
My pleasure as well. To hear my name pronounced correctly is probably the biggest pleasure I've had by far in quite some time. So, merci beaucoup.
So, for the audience, sans souci, that means without worries in French.
Yes, it does.
And it kind of goes together with what you are doing to bring it up to the table for human resources people. You are removing all these worries that are happening. And this topic, it is such an interesting topic because, in fact, many of us think that human resources are a little bit like lagging behind AI.
Mhm.
I have seen it also a little bit with my own eyes when you discuss technology. They are waiting for this IT department to find a solution,
Mhm.
while in fact, it shouldn't be like that. And first of all, I wanted to have your opinion. Is it true, or is it my critical me who is just saying, the HR is behind the curve when it comes to AI?
I think they're more than behind the curve, and we're kind of an interesting junction because all of our customers are HR service organizations, so they're providing that transactionally and or otherwise. My background initially was in accounting. And I tell you, finance and accounting is going to be AI first. Right now, that they have adopted fully. All the people I know in that space can tell you that, hey, there won't be an AP department in 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. So the adoption rate's high. HR is kind of sitting back here and looking at it, trying to determine what it means and doesn't mean. I'd say, for example, you can get on ChatGPT and have it write a ad to hire somebody for you in a heartbeat, right? And I can tell you by reading it that you did that. So it's not hard to see coming. That is not practicing HR from an AI perspective. What I also firmly believe, you hit on it, the HR departments are sitting around waiting for, let's say ADP provides their services or their platform, waiting for them to do it for them. Let's be spoon fed. Whatever it is you say that I should be using, I'm happy to use it. Those organizations are going to struggle. I think you've got to really get yourself a partner, more than likely, depending on the size of your company. Small to mid market's going to need partnerships, which we try to provide. But you have to find somebody that says, okay, how do I get ROI out of this? Because that's the real stumbling block right now. How is my HR department half the size it is today? Or I have people working on real HR instead of transactional HR.
And what is terrible is that when you know the realities of what happens during COVID time is that HR started assessing how much time they were spending in bullshit. That means administration, like
A lot.
Excel files. But then they needed a little bit more of time made in order to take on care also on the well-being of people during COVID. And
Mhm.
then there was this famous word that came up, culture. And how do we manage the culture of the organization? But you don't have the time when you spend most of your day managing Excel files. And that was, at least at the beginning, a very good case for human resources to clean up the table so that you have time for things that matter and can have
Yes.
impact on the organization. And today we don't see it still coming. There has been some improvements, but as we are discussing, they are waiting for someone to find the solutions. And funny enough, you have mentioned somewhere that HR needs to focus on solutions and not systems.
Yes.
And I want to understand more. What does it mean? What is the mindset shift needed to go from AI consumer, ChatGPT, write to me this email, to an AI innovator?
Yeah, I think, and I'm gonna cheat a little bit and use our background. We're an ISO 9001 company, and process. I start with process. What is the
Mm.
process of HR in end to end, or sub processes in between? How do you hire somebody? How do you terminate somebody? How do you fix their payroll? Let's go on and on and on there. A lot of companies don't document that part. So let's start with what am I doing? Then look at that and say what tools could help me in that versus being spoon fed those tools. Can I ingest data? I'll tell you, like, I'll give you an example within an HR department because we do it ourselves today. I get my invoice for benefits from a vendor. It's of course a PDF that I can't do
Mm.
anything with. We utilize a tool set that ingests that, organizes it correctly, reconciles against the payroll, comes back and says, everything's good, but these three people are wrong. You need to fix that and call the carrier or call your broker. That happens in seconds. That used to be exactly as you said. Somebody with a spreadsheet spent a day and a half of our well paid time figuring out that they owe us $1,200.38. Fantastic. But did that add value to the chain of culture and HR? No. More importantly, for your VP of HR in that role, the complaint I've heard for 35 years is I want a seat at the table with the C-level guys and help drive this organization in the future. Well, when they find out you spend 80% of your time on bullshit, as you said, you don't get a seat at the table. You got to go solve that problem first before you're going to get time to look at the larger processes. Are we hiring the right people? How do we predict if our hires are any good? How do we look at productivity? The things that HR should look at are the higher value add services, if you will.
So, in fact, this is the first time that where the way of adopting a new technology is not like in the past. You remember the back in the days when there was this expensive SAP implementations in the 2000s, even in the 90s.
All too well. ASAP. Not to slight my German friends, but yeah, they're a little
I'm
rough.
still shivering when I think about it. It was so annoying, so boring. And we needed these expensive German consultants to come with beautiful glasses and nice haircuts. And they were really expensive. And they loved spending time with us when we didn't understand.
And they never
So I
left,
was in
by
this,
the way. They're like still here.
they are still here. Incredible. So the way to learn has changed. So it depends more about the attitude that we have because you cannot learn AI. It is every single day there is a new thing.
Mhm.
I
Can't keep
think
up.
yesterday I received the email from Claude saying that there is the new features in Cowork. So whatever you learn, you don't have to wait and do any learning or hire an expensive consultant to tell you what to do. It's only about jumping, doing it,
Mhm.
failing, doing stupid things at the beginning in order to do the bigger things afterwards. So what is your feeling about this mindset shift that people needs in order to really embrace AI? Is there a way? It's like there is a way to learn
Well,
AI for an HR person?
it's going to embrace you whether you like it or not. I'll look at the way our AI department is. We hired young engineers and they're figuring it out. You got to learn these tools on the fly, as you just explained. If I put an ad out for an expert in Claude doing this and this and this, I won't find anybody. Or if I do, they're making so much money I can't hire them. You've got to, as an organization, start to play with the technology yourself and figure out what you think it can and cannot do. And I'll kind of go back to the process side of it. Okay, then I'm looking at my process and I say, well, Claude could do all this. Why do I have human beings doing this? Executing on that is a lot harder than you think. What I'll tell you, we run into, I don't know if you play with Claude a bit, our friends that like to hallucinate in there. We will get some of these tool sets. It's doing it perfectly. This is exactly what I wanted you to do. And then it tries to do it better like a week from now. And it's wrong. So there's more skill involved with managing this technology. I think you mentioned SAP. Once you put SAP in, it worked the way it worked. That was it. You didn't have to worry about that or fix it. Maybe more high paid consultants later on somewhere, but for the most part, it worked. AI doesn't work that way. It's trying to evolve, and you have to kind of monitor it a little bit, like a child, if you will, and say, is this going to continue to do what I wanted to? I watch them play with the paragraph that tells it what to do, and that is a skill as much as an art form, I'd say. Is
You have made me think that 2 days ago I was trying to translate a document that originally was in French into English because I wanted to share it with someone else who doesn't speak French. And Claude didn't want to do it. He was telling me it's going to take approximately 3 minutes to translate. And then, hey, 5 minutes now. Where is it? I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was waiting for, and he did like 5 times an iteration because he didn't want to do it. I'm sorry that I have misled you.
That's why it's named Claude. I mean, come on, it's already got a French flair to begin with. So I can say
You
it as
are
my last name too. It's fair game.
you are damn right. The French attitude is all over.
I do not speak English, but I really do. Yes.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you. So if we had to imagine this to have a picture of what does a truly AI powered HR function looks like in action, tell me a little bit about this image. What changes? What becomes possible in a function like HR?
Yeah, and I'm going to use internally because we're trying to do this now. I will warn you. I've talked to a lot of really educated people that are doing predictive analytics on human beings. If you can predict human behavior, then good luck to you. However, we're building a similar system to say, how do I hire the right person for this particular job and they stay at least 3 or 4 years? What's that look like? The ability of AI to trend that backwards once you feed it some data is mind bending. It comes back to us with, oh, they're from this part of town and they went to this university. And oh, by the way, they're this religion or this or that. I mean, you go down the list. It's going to think outside of the box, outside of the way we would have normally looked at that data. Normally, you and I would have put that in a spreadsheet. We would try to find a trend, and maybe I spotted the matrix or not. I don't know. But today, when we feed that data in there, now whether it's predicting or not yet, we're not sure. We're going to find out. I think the tool sets for the HR department is, listen, I can help make sure we've got the right people working for us now and that they perform as we want versus, hey, I ran their payroll and I made sure they did their benefits enrollment. The value of that, and also having time for culture. I mean, I'm a big culture fan. How many HR departments spend any time on corporate culture? Probably
Mm.
almost none. So, you can detach yourself from your transactional world and figure out a way to actually practice human part of HR.
Mm. So the picture that you're showing is that in terms of predictability, in order to ensure, for instance, that a new hire is going to stay a certain time with you, if there is this matching, this chemistry between the employee and the culture of your company, is like
Mhm,
a good marriage. It's like
mhm.
a matchmaker for for companies and employees. That is something quite interesting. I also see that it is possible also to understand a little bit more to assess the performance of someone because it, there is a lot of emails exchange that can
Mhm.
instead of having spending time to write these 2 3 pages about what I did during the year, that is possible for AI to recollect everything that has been done in order to put it together. And this takes seconds, and then there is from the other side the possibility to assess, and then a real human to validate.
Numerically too. This is where people get
Yes,
lost. I want productivity numerically. And you could take that, for example, from your attendance system, from your HR system. You could take 5 or 6 data points and put them together and say, who's working? And I will warn you, I saw this yesterday, so it's so fresh in my mind. I don't know if it's Copilot. It will take every Teams message in your company, come back and tell you analytically who's working and who's not working,
mm,
who interacts with the most people multi-department, who basically is running this place and who is, they're here, they're doing a good job. That was a little on the frightening side, by the way.
it is a little bit scary. But it is scary. But when you understand the principles of AI, then you know that it's up to you to decide what is your definition of working or not working. Is
Sure, sure.
exactly. It's not
Yeah,
like, hey,
could have
has
been
he
my
been typing? No,
right.
that's not work. That's typing.
I'm on the phone a lot. Could be my mother calling me, or I could be working. That part it may or may not know. But disparate data sets within AI is a strong point. So I'm really intrigued on that. Also, training too, because we're trying to do that predictably. We spend 60 days training somebody to decide where they fit. That data is sitting there, but we've never done a lot with it. So analytically, where are we succeeding? We actually built an AI training suite for a reason, because we caught kids cheating on chat on their phone doing the assessment. So we had a normal assessment where they could take their time. Well, they would sit there with their phone under their desk while they're being assessed and cheat. So now it's interactive. They have to speak to it. So they don't have time or the ability to do that. So tools like that from assessment perspective are going to be very entertaining in the near future.
Another thing that I found quite useful in terms of the use of AI for human resources is that, of course, human resources doesn't really like when you give them like multiple analytics, too many numbers, so they have
No.
like blood going out of their eyes and all a lot of funny effects. But what I like is that AI can break down in small pieces of information, like in
Mhm.
human language, and you don't have to put it already everything in a one single document, but you can say, day one, I will give you this. This is urgent. This is happening in your work culture, for instance. If you are tracking your work culture with an AI based
Mhm.
bot or whatsoever, that you can drop small pieces of information the way us human have the time to process and take an action. Because when you give like the 50 pages analytics about what is going on, nobody's going to read it. They're going to take in average 2 weeks, and then you're going to discover that this expensive piece of report was only read by 15% of the target audience who needed to read it.
Exactly.
And it's sad because sometimes they pay a fortune for that piece of information.
Or managers. I've seen this. Can HR project into the management of the company, the actual operations, which they never really have? So I've seen this tool we developed that pings the manager and says, "Hey, you got somebody screwing around over there. They're not keeping up. They're not working as hard. Their average time per transaction is slow. Maybe you should get up over here and go see what's going on." Think
Exactly.
think of HR inflicting, if you will, upon the organization the ability to live in productivity. Now, there are some jobs, and I know this from being a kind of recovered CFO. You can't measure, accounting staff very well. Their productivity is measured in days, not minutes. But imagine if you could. Imagine if you know who's really working and who really isn't, and it'll be scary, and it can be abused and misused, no doubt. I think the companies that figure out the way to cause us, hey, it's simple. How do I teach my managers to manage? Imagine if HR had the time to do that versus their payroll.
I love these options that we have about being more proactive about
Yeah.
situations. Not that when it's too late that we get to know, yes, people are unhappy, but it makes 3 or 4 months that they're unhappy about this. But
You
then
find
you
out when
cannot
they
do
quit.
anything anymore. We want to look to be a little bit to look at another angle. So we
Mhm.
have discussed a little bit about what could be awesome to have in terms of use case for AI in human resources. But I wanted to know on the flip side, have you seen AI in HR going like completely wrong, bananas? And how can human resources avoid that type of cases where it doesn't go the right way? Because really, to be sincere, I always hear the same that there is a lot of cases of implementation of AI that are not going well. And when
No.
they are not going well, it's the people that the way that they forgot the people they thought that it was SAP again and that people are going to obey by reading the 100 pages manual.
Yeah, I think in the HR business in general, and what I'm in, data security is biggie, and I don't think people think of that. I'm like, I saw in our TV show the other day, don't upload your tax returns into Claude. Well, no kidding. Who would do that? Apparently, people do this. It's not me, that's for sure. But we look at it that way too, because like, guys, this is people's banks accounts, their social security numbers in the United States. Let's go down the list of the data I'm handling here. I'm not so sure I want Claude, who is apt to maybe blackmail people, to particularly ingest that data. Now, I don't mind having it behind a barrier, which is what we do, but I think people, when the what could go wrong category in HR, let's just start with data security and say, listen, know what you're working with, know what tool you're working with, Do I own this or do they own that? Your average chat user online that's not paying $59 a year, they don't own that and they can't protect that data. And I don't think they understand that. Chat does. Uh, in HR, I think we need to teach people to avoid disaster, just to think really hard about the data as much as anything. Right now, there's not enough, unfortunately. There are some that go bad. What I see going bad is the promise. I have a client who came back to me and said, okay, yeah, I need to go back to your system. Okay, good. Because an AI company came in and said, we can magically do all this. Even though it's underwriting of health and workers' comp and stuff like that, it's very sophisticated work. Yeah, we got that. AI can magically do all this. It didn't. Didn't even come close. So a backstop's not a bad idea either. If you have a system that's working right now, don't stick it, out the back or kick it out the door. You're going to need it. Experiment with it and see where you get. Because if you have that failure, then you can come back to it.
But tell me, there is a little bit of misunderstandings. And this is one of the fears that human resources is having today in order to use AI is that the confidentiality of data. But is it possible to have your private thing where the data will not get out to the big monster who is thinking behind?
For a lot of money, yeah, you can go private cloud. HR is never going to get that budget. There's Amazon Bedrock, which is kind of that. It's hey, here's your workspace, and you can use LLMs behind it, but it's supposed to stay back there. We're all going to find out whether any of this is true one way or another going forward. But yeah, I think anybody who gets a pro account on chat and starts to play with this data, buyer beware on that. Be very careful.
So you say that despite the fact that there is the promise that the data is secure, it is still not 100% sure.
I don't think we know yet. I think if you learn, you might learn.
That's a little bit terrible, but I guess that's the risk that we had also when companies went into the internet.
It's all new. Every new technology has this problem. Trust me.
There is always a
I
risk.
sit in an airport on my phone going, is somebody looking at this or somebody hacked into that? I move money around. So I got to think about that. I've always thought that way as a financial person from my background. I don't know that HR people necessarily always think that way. I hope they do. Please God, don't email me something like that too. I don't know how many times I've had to tell customers that do not email me the social security numbers ever again, please.
Well, it a little bit maps what happens in the real world. It's like I remember that 2 weeks ago, I was just booking my holidays, and I know that they shouldn't be asking about my passport anymore on the booking site. The hotel manager was asking me, not even the booking site, can you send
Mhm.
me your passport? Spanish people, they need to validate that you exist and that you're not an image. I didn't send it. And of course, but it is the case. This passport is in the cloud somewhere and is going to be printed and faxed.
Mhm. No, you hit that on the head. I actually had one of my board members contact me last week. Very sophisticated person, very educated person. Say, hey, this came from our HR deal. What do I need to do this or not? And I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, no. Please do not click on that or touch that in any way. I get phished all the time. I think you kind of hit on it there, actually. Phishing is something we see worse and worse. The sophistication of it, because it's AI driven, is
Hmm.
high. You know,
Oh, yeah.
how did AI figure out which HR system I use internally?
Hmm.
Somebody did because they're phishing it that way. So I think HR has also got to step into a little bit of that world of guys, don't when you're at home on a Saturday and you get a link about your benefits or your something bank account or something like that, read the URL, pay attention, watch what you're doing because the cost of that phishing today is not nothing, more or less.
I remember back in the days, it was easy also to find in shared servers the Excel file with data of all the private data of the people, the rating, their scores, everything in an Excel file. This laptop probably was taken or saved in another
Absolutely.
laptop when the person left. So it was all over. I want to get practical, John, because I want to
Sure.
benefit a little bit of all this experience that you have got to see the best and the worst of AI implementations. For an HR leader who's bought in this idea but doesn't know where to start with AI, what's the first step? How do you go into improving your skills from novice to native? What would you advise to this leader?
I'd say get a partner more than anything. I'm not going to pitch my own services because well, I will if I have to. But our clients come to us and say, "Hey, I've been doing all this experimenting, playing the AI. Hear this AI stuff. What's that all mean, and what should we do?" And we say, "Oh, well, by the way, we just happen to have solutions for you." And that's us trying to get out. Right, I'm in the BPO business. Will that exist in 10 years? I don't know. We'll see. I want to be ahead of that curve. But I think seek out resources that do this. Like you said, I'm not going to bang on Accenture. Don't go pay, $1,000 an hour for somebody to tell you how to do this stuff, or the Germans coming in with their haircuts and glasses. That is one way to do it. That's a big company way to do it. So if you're down in the smaller side, find you somebody you trust. Ask them what you think it can do. Look at the processes you have. Your tool sets that exist around you may already have some of these features and you just don't know it. I literally found out today that ADP Workforce Now has a benefit recon feature in it, and it's AI driven. I didn't even know it was there. Somebody told me. So I think, look at your own vendors and what are they doing? Have they added some AI and can you use it? And then definitely get yourself a trusted partner.
There are two things that I want to understand from you. Is one, it is very difficult to assess if I don't know enough about AI to assess if the other person is going to bring value. It's not even about knowing enough about AI. I don't want like a Zurich data center IBM who created his own LLM at the age of 14.
Hmm.
Maybe we don't care, but it
Maybe it doesn't
shows
work. I don't know.
how do you recognize if somebody is going to bring you value, who is going to help you pick the right cases, somebody who is able to transmit? Because I think in the AI thing, this transmission of knowledge is more important than with the SAP guys. In the SAP guys, nobody wanted to take the configurators and burn their fingers. But here in AI, you need to put yourself on the game. So how do
Yes, you
you
do.
assess that, John?
I'm gonna go old school and its references. I got this smart guy says he can fix everything. It's automagic. Great. Who else have you fixed it for? And may I talk to them? I think you have to be pragmatic in your approach. I see a lot of AI vendors out there. I attended AI 4 last year in Vegas, which was mind bending. The
Yeah.
ethics particularly really interest me. Uh, at the same time, I talked to a lot of people that have a lot of stuff, and I was like, "Great. Well, how many clients you got that I can talk to?" Well, I got one. Okay, call me when that works out, and tell me how it worked out for you. I think you've got to look for proof of concept. You've got to find that not only did it work. My next question to that is, oh, that's great. Did it increase revenue? Did it reduce costs? Did it create efficiency? What did it do? How did my company grow or do better because of it?
Now, let's remove you from your role as a consultant, and you are the human resources. Would you try to build the cases, the knowledge, the skills for AI in house? Would you? I mean, you are human resources. Would you go into somebody in marketing who already has the knowledge and say, "How would you do this for me? How would it work?"
Yeah,
Would you do that
and
and
I think
groom someone to?
from the sensitivity of the data perspective, I can stay internal, and I've got some smart kind of IT-ish person floating around my organization. I would start there. They play with it at night because they don't sleep.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're fully aware of who they are. Most small to mid companies have one, the one person that fixes everything magically all the time. They're starting to fix it on their own and acting like they're busy, and they're not busy, which is even better. I would start there. Going external is just that's a minefield because it's such a new technology and there's so many players. And as you know, the big players are there, but they don't take small engagements. So it depends, the size matters in this case, really.
So you don't need like a representative of a brand. You need more like this consigliere, like in the Godfather's world, the guy
Yeah.
who just knows.
But the wartime one. And leave the cannoli. Yeah, I
Let
know
me
you're hitting on something, like, how do I assess something so new? And how do I find somebody that knows what they're doing? It really comes back to checking on them. I can't I saw a company online the other day, that competes with something I do, and they've got 5 smart people, and they claim their AI solution can fix everything. I don't think they have any clients. They may get 1 or 2, and it may be legitimate because they're the SMEs. I think I see that a lot too in HR. I have a subject matter expert on employment taxes that knows everything in the world. That doesn't qualify them as an AI provider, by the way. Those skill sets are diverse. We've found, we're just hiring very young engineers and letting them learn on the job with the tools because the tools are so easy. Think about it. I told my partner this morning. Used to, I graduated with a .NET SQL background. I put my resume out there. You hired me to write code, and I did it. There's no Claude for that. So there's no school for that. There's no certificate for that. You wouldn't learn that the hard way, which is actually doing it. However, we both know those tools are writing paragraphs in plain English now
Mm.
and refining them, not code in a foreign language or Greek to most people.
Hmm. John, if you could change one thing about how HR is approaching AI today, like a way of thinking, a skill, or a habit, what would it be?
Don't wait. I think a lot of them are waiting and watching and seeing what tools get developed out in the world for them to use. Think of your value. What's your value if you develop these tools in-house yourself? I'm always going to look at it from a exit value. Let's say one day you're going to sell your company. Do you want to sell a company that uses everybody else's AI products or the one that developed their own? From an HR perspective, that's enormous. And that I have some real value here. I can prove to you that we're better at hiring and we retain at double the industry standard because we built this tool set and it's performing. Oh, no, by the way, you're going to have to pay me for it. It's not free versus, waiting around for my payroll provider to figure out a way to check my payroll versus last payroll, which they're going to do, by the way, and they're doing it. And that's great. I love that. I would not wait for that train. I would be ahead of it.
I have a small experience that I wanted to share. Maybe I started using AI at the beginning. It wasn't the beginning, it was a little bit late, like maybe 2 years ago. And it was the usual, my learning path was from rephrasing because I have a suck English to writing emails.
Hmm.
And suddenly, like approximately 1 year and a half ago, I got interested with this vibe coding.
Hmm.
And gosh, finally, to have ideas and just to prototype them in 3 seconds, I'm 53. It was amazing. It was because I didn't want to learn how to code. When I
Well,
learned how to code back in university, it's languages that do not exist anymore.
yeah,
John,
they're
you
going.
know something called Pascal or something like that? I used to code in Pascal or in Basic, the JGW Basic, I remember. I was
Hmm.
doing some databases back in my engineering school. So that you don't use anymore. And suddenly to have this opportunity to use vibe coding, to see people even older than me who get it who when they saw it, they discovered a new world. Anyone can learn. That's the message. Anyone can learn because now it is talking the language. It is just about us putting our experience to understand the problems, to imagine how could be the solutions, and just tell it to the Vibe coder platform how and see
Yeah.
it live.
Yeah, those who can clearly in English communicate or write what they want something to do. I want you to do this. You're going to share this with me. I grew up in large corporate America to begin with in the HR outsourcing space. There's nothing more effective than a well-worded one-page memo that gets across what exactly I'm saying. This is exactly what I want you to do for me, and this is when I want it. Nobody has that skill anymore. I mean, you got not to bang on the younger generation; they couldn't write a memo for their life. But as you're saying in your instance, that's okay in the new world of AI. You don't need to politically know how to write. You need to know how do I tell this what I'm trying to get back from it and toy with that. That's a different skill set.
I have noticed even that it has an impact on my way of making the dialogue with my daughters or with my wife. The prompting thing sticks.
Well, I think of in what our tool sets we use. We ingest data and get it in JSON or any other format we want. Then we turn to our clients and say, what do you want to do with it? And they have trouble answering that question. All you got to do is tell me what you want to do with it. And I'm going to write a paragraph to tell AI to do it. And that's what's going to happen. So the complexity is not as much as you think it is. I'm not reinventing the wheel back here.
John, how can people reach you out? Because I have the feeling that all this experience on AI implementations in use cases that are focused just on human resources, which is quite powerful because the complexity of human resources sometimes is not understood by the Accentures of the world
by the
because
humans.
they're not interested. How can they reach you out to ask you questions, John?
Oh, anytime. Yeah, I think you'll probably put out my email address and such. So I'm always around for those kinds of things.
Okay, so
And so
what I'm going to do
Cognet
is
HRO is our company. Look us up on the web and you can find me.
yes, I will put the your website below this episode. I will put also your LinkedIn profile so that can people reach you out and check your picture and all the stuff. John, it was magnificent to spend time with you and learn a little bit more about the topic. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.